Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you, admittedly, a bit of bias. The Aeldari Codex is out and people are playing with it, for the most part. I think this detachment is a little bit slept on. Now, my bias is that if I were to play elves, I probably would be playing Wraith Construct spam or some way, some form. Um, but Spirit Conclave, I'm seeing a lot of things that nobody's talking about. And after seeing where some of the other detachments have been, I don't want to say failing, but not as I think powerful as people were expecting. I'm looking at things like aspect host, battle host, even a little bit of uh what's it called? Wind Rider host. They're all host, my bad. Yeah. After a little bit of that and kind of war host to an extent, I think that the funky ones mainly devoted of that I guess everybody knew. I still have to look more into Seer Council, but I think Spirit Conclave has more play because of the things and the combinations that you now get access to. So, for those that don't know, Spirit Conclave makes it so that with Shepherds of the Dead, each time an Azuriani Psyker model from your army is destroyed by an enemy unit, that enemy unit gains a Vengeful Dead token. Each time a Wraith Construct model from your army makes an attack that targets a unit with one or more Vengeful Dead tokens, add one to the hit roll and add one to the wound roll. Azuriani Psyker models from your army have the following ability. Spirit Guides, Aura. While a Wraithblades, Wraith Guard, or Wraith Lord unit from your army is within 12 inches of this model, that unit has Battle Focus. Also, Wraithblades and Wraith Guard become Battle Line. So, I think this might be a case of they got nerfed, so it's not that good anymore, right? Uh, Wraithblades and Wraith Guard, their toughness went down. So I think people are looking at them less because of that. And, I'd probably do the same if I was being honest. But going through things, they're actually still okay. And they made sure for the Azuriani Psyker part because I kept hearing everybody just talk about the Psyker aspect. I was like, wait, isn't the Incarn Psyker? But not Azuriani, as you can see. So going past that, what do I have faith in about this detachment? Well, plus one to hit, plus one to wound is pretty good, and if you kind of have heard me blab on about some things, I like the you lose, well, your opponent loses either way type of thing, such as Broodguard Impulse, Assimilation Swarm, um, the Final Day Stratagem, the stratagems that we got with Questor Forge Pack and Iconoclast Fiefdom, basically where if you lose something, your opponent is going to pay for it, right? So making an entire detachment rule around that has my attention. Also, I guess I should be playing Votan, huh? But yeah, past that, the enhancements, admittedly, leave some to be desired. Uh, 30 points for more OC. Don't think I would pay that. Can't see that. Critical wound precisions as a Tyrannage player. Don't take that. That's not great. Rune of Mist. 18 inches, benefit of cover, 10 points. Not too bad, and I think I have a specific funky one that you would spend 10 points for. It's 10 points as a points filler. Not that bad. And higher duty, 25 points. Once per turn, reactive move, 9 inches. We know how that thing goes. I guess, but you're also still playing Eldar, so I mean, you kind of want the Spiritseers to go, but not really at the same time. I think if it wasn't 25 points, I'd be higher up on this. But for 25 points, you know, yeah. So TLDR on the enhancements. How can you say that this is being slept on if you only can see use in one of them? Well, sometimes enhancements aren't that good, uh, unfortunately. But going on to the stratagems, it's also a bit funky. I'm not even going to lie to you. It's more so what we're going to or what Eldar players have access to in the data sheets, in combination with this, that can get a little bit rowdy, I think. We have a one command point ignores modifiers to AP and damage, which, not to hit or wound, but uh, I guess they're assuming since you get +1 to hit and +1 to wound, somehow, some way in this detachment, you will either undo it or not need it. So I guess that's fine. This is a new one. We'll have to see how that plays out. And to be honest, I I think it has play. I think it has play. Requires a Psyker model and a friendly Wraith construct within a foot of it. Your Psyker has to see the enemy, but these are hoops that I don't know why they even bother writing, because it's a lot of hoops, but it's also not at the exact same time. You'll find setting up pieces on the board. Probably this was going to happen anyway. They're just saying you have to see them to do things, but it's whatever. Soul Bridge. One Wraithblades, Wraith Guard, or Wraith Lord, and one Azuriani Psyker model from your army until the start of your next command phase. For the purposes of Psychic Guidance and Spirit Guide, you are within that range, basically. That's fine. Uh, Good to have if you really need to extend battle focus to somebody that was way too far out. So, works. Wraithbone Armor. This is step one of why I think that this detachment is a little bit slept on. Because for one command point, you are subtracting a damage characteristic for a Wraith Construct unit in your opponent's shooting or the fight phase, for non-Titanic. And I don't know how to tell you this, but 5 models at 623 with a 4 up invuln, I should say toughness 6, 2 up save, 4 up invuln, 3 wounds. Subtracting 1 from the damage characteristic of that, and the game passes out benefit of cover like candy. Yeah, those fuckers are sturdy. They're a bit sturdy. So that's step number one. And then we apply to the fact that they get to become battle line in this detachment. Now, I'm not saying that you will take battle line quantities, but for reference, right? Too many people try to convince me that Warrior Bioform Onslaught was going to be the bee's knees. And we're talking about T5, 4 up save, 3 wounds, 5 up invuln. No -1 damage. Okay. Yeah, if that's what the cope was there, I think that 624 4 up invuln, 3 wounds is better. And mind you, that 4 up invuln that I'm including is from the war gear for the Wraith Blade. So I'll put it that where it's not everybody. But for 623, that's pretty damn good without the war gear. Then Spirit Token. One Wraith Blades or Wraith Guard unit from your army. Sticky. Cool. We like sticky. Blades from Beyond. Another one command point that nobody's talking about. A Wraith Blades unit, Wraith Lord, or Wraith Knight that has not been selected to fight gets devastating wounds until the end of the phase. Huh. So, well, we'll get into the amount of attacks in a bit, but devastating wounds for one command point, huh? In Necron's Canoptic Court, that was an issue that had to get FAQ'd and nerfed. Now, mind you, this is the fight phase, so a little bit more restrictive. You had to jump through a couple of more hoops, but devastating wounds is better than lethals because fuck your save. Unless you have a feel no pain. Fuck your save. And we're talking about like damage 2, damage 3 attacks. Wraith Knight might have damage 4. I forgot to check that part before going this far. But damage 2 and 3 attacks with devastating wounds. Yeah. Yeah. And again, we're talking about one command point. Okay, and Crushing Tides, final one, your charge phase. This is Tank Shock, but different. Wraithblades, if you use it with Wraithblades, you roll 1d6 for each Wraithblade model in your unit. If you did it for a Wraithlord, 4d6. If it's a Wraith Knight, 6d6. And each 3 up is a Immortal Wound. Yeah. For one command point, that's pretty decent. Um, and all you had to do was charge with the things that want to be in combat that now have access to devastating wounds. I think some things are going to get lifted. But now to explain what I think I've put on the thumbnail. This is I do the thumbnails after the video. We'll see. Um, I think that this detachment will benefit a lot from mobility. No shit, monster. Everything benefits from mobility. Yes. However, after playing around with Crusher Stampede and adding more speed into that list, where it's just like, what if my monsters just flew or like had 12 to 14-inch movement and type shit like that? Even if they're not the hardest hitters, what if we went that angle? Um, you can really appreciate when one part of your army is very fast and the other part of your army hits very hard. Yeah, so to that end, I'm coming here with Spirit Conclave proposal. Do that. Hey, you should do that because now you're giving them the potential for battle focus too, which I'll be honest, I rate it kind of highly at first, and I don't think I do anymore except for Sudden Strike being on Wraithblades. Um, that shit is probably not okay. Because again, what we found out, I think a lot of people's wake up call to this was Death Guard Flyblown Host. Pile and consolidate 6 inches means that you get to go pretty absurd distances. Yeah. So that on Wraith Blades could be a bit of an issue. But now, after all the yapping of what Spirit Conclave has to offer, let's talk about the things that can be within it, or what I think should be within it. Starting first with, of course, Spiritseers. No shit, you're bringing Spiritseers. I only really wanted to put this here really quick just so we can understand what it does for the rest of this. Lone op, if you're within 3 inches of Wraith constructs, you get to give your fucking unit sustained hitch 1 or a Wraith construct that isn't Titanic. You get to give it sustained hitch 1, and you get to do the engine seer thing of revive, well, in this case, a model or D3 to 1 model for whatever the Wraith construct situation is. Each unit can only be selected for this ability once per turn. 65 points, you're bringing Spiritseers, no shit. But moving on quickly past to the Wraith Knight with Conclave. Probably not the regular Wraith Knight because this one still can bring a heavy Wraith cannon if you really feel that you need that. But beyond that, you have each time this model makes a normal, advanced, or fallback move, can go through models and terrain features. When doing so, it can move within engagement range of any enemy models, but cannot end that move within engagement range of them. Yeah. Scatter Shield, 4 up invulnerable save, and each time an attack is allocated to the bearer, -1 damage of that attack. So, for 420 points, I'm just saying. I'm just saying, for 420 points, we might see a return of the Wraith Knights with Ghost Glaives. I don't see why nobody's experimenting with this idea. I understand 420 points is a little bit expensive, but this also comes off the back of me thinking about Titanic units a bit more because we're both seeing Imperial Knights do decent enough. Now, mind you, it is a bit more armature spam, but also last month I talked about a Renegade Raiders list that had two Corn Lord of Skulls, and I just saw a list for Soulforge Warpack that included a Corn Lord of Skulls, and that is 435 points. So, this is cheaper than that. You might want to look at that. Going on next, we have Wraithblades. Yeah, I rate the Wraithblades highly because for 170 points, you get 5 models, 623. Uh, go with the Ghost X and Force Shield, in my opinion. 3 attacks, hidden on 4, 722 with a 4-up invulnerable save. And a fight on death on 3s. But also, while this unit is within a foot of one or more friendly Psyker models, Aeldari Psyker models in that unit have a leadership characteristic of a 6 plus, and each time a model in this unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. So, a Psyker is around, and now you're hitting on 3s. That's 15 attacks, 722. Can be devastating wounds. So, devastating wounds and minus 2 AP. That sounds pretty good. And now that we're giving them battle focus, thanks to the detachment, pile and consolidate 6 inches, or subtract 1 damage for a stratagem, reactive move after being shot at with fade back. Yeah. Yeah, or give them plus 2 inches on their own move so you can make their charge a little bit better. Wraith Blades for 170 points. I like those odds. Now, we get into their counterpart, Wraith Guard, that at first I didn't have in this list. I understand you're like, now you're just going through all of them. I really didn't plan to because I wrote these off, especially because the D Scythe is now Torrent, that isn't Ignores Cover, and isn't Blast, right? So, they're eligible to fall back and shoot. That's nice. And they have the same Psychic Guidance shit where if they're within a foot of a Psyker, 6 up on leadership, and plus 1 to hit. With a Torrent, don't really care about that. But 5 models, 170 points, same stat line, right? Torrent, 12 inches. How the fuck are we getting there? Well, everybody hop in. Oh, before I say why. D6, 731. Yeah, that's a potential of 30 damage, if I can do math. That's not too bad for AP3 and Strength 7, and a detachment that you can possibly hit motherfuckers that are plus 1 to wound against. Now, how are we getting there? How about in a Wave Serpent, that is a vehicle, that can have access to star engines? D6 plus 1 on the move characteristic. Normal move. Each time a ranged attack targets this model, if the strength is greater than the toughness, minus 1 to wound for 115 points. Each Wraith construct takes up the space of 2 models, so a full squad of Wraith Guard is 10. You have a transport capacity of 12. You can fit another 2 Aeldari infantry models, i.e., you're probably putting a Spiritseer, maybe a Farseer, or a Warlock in here for the fuck of it. Hell, maybe an Autarch or some bullshit. Who knows? But somebody else can get in here. And then you can all deploy and do the funny shenanigans. Yeah, once I realized you can put these fuckers in here that comfortably and then give battle focus, I think that's a lot more mission play than people are giving credit for. Because how many other units can you think of that without Deep Strike can move that far at 623? Yeah, yeah, with a 731 flamer. Now, mind you, that's just my take on what the weapon you're probably taking. This is just going to clear shit, but I guess you could go with the Wraith Cannons. Don't think you really need to, considering what army you're playing, but you have that option if you want to. Yeah, there's that. And then going to the Wraith Lord, another one I wasn't going to put on, but I keep hearing Eldar players talk about how this is point sufficient and good for them, so hey, I don't see it personally, but if everybody else is rating it, I might as well talk about it briefly. Wraith Lords, T10 to up save, 10 wounds, Fated Hero. At the start of the battle, select one of the following keywords: infantry, monster, mounted, or vehicle. Each time this model makes an attack that targets a unit with the selected keyword, reroll hit rolls of 1 and reroll wound rolls of 1. Psychic Guidance is a little bit different, where instead of +1 to hit, you increase the ballistic skill and weapon skill of the characteristic. So, you go to hitting on 3s, and then you can have access to the +1 to hit, +1 to wound from the detachment, bringing you to 2s, which makes you better than the other things. And for 140 points, I mean, I guess I can see it. Alright, I guess I can see it in a way. But, just want to put here because everybody else says that this is good. So, hey, take their word for it, maybe not mine. Then going to the spicier portion of this aspect, not aspect host. Uh, Hemlock Wraithfighter, I know people talked about it and kind of wrote it off like, nah, that's kind of fucking stupid, yada yada yada. Well, here's the thing, right? Now that we're putting Wraith Guard and Wave Serpents and sending them across the field, if your escort of a Spiritseer dies, then that unit is +1 to hit, +1 to wound against, or maybe you didn't even put a Spiritseer in there. Maybe you did something else. Maybe you didn't have the space, whatever, right? The Hemlock Wraithfighter is a aircraft that is a Psyker and a Wraith construct. And Azuriani, right? Just gotta double check. Azuriani, Psyker, okay? So, fuck the Mind Shock pod. We're not really worried about the Battle Shock leadership test thing situation. What we're worried about is the fact that it has 2 heavy D sides that are blast. D6 attacks, hitting on 4, strength 12, AP 4, damage 2. And because of how it can get angles and things, you can sit here and proc the Seer's Eye. I wonder if you can proc it literally for yourself. One Aeldari Psyker model and one... Huh, I don't know. I don't know. But it has to be visible to your Psyker model, and, well, it says visible. It doesn't say a specific type of visible. So if you're aircraft, a lot of things are visible to you. So you can proc Seer's Eye a little bit easier. You can have access to Wraithbone armor, subtracting damage into you as, well, this situation, that as an aircraft situation, that's pretty nice. And yeah, going back to the Spiritseer, given sustained, and this is the one that I think you might want to consider 10 points Rune of Mist, because if you park your damn Hemlock Wraithfighter somewhere along your Runes of Mist Spiritseer, it gets sustained, and now you have benefit of cover, even though you are an aircraft and all of the funky shenanigans that go with aircraft rulings. But that is to say, it gives you a little bit of safety for 10 points that I don't mind. And now we're talking about, hitting on 3s, heavy D-Scythe, blast, 2d6, strength 12, AP 4, damage 2, possibly +1 to hit, +1 to wound. I factored that in with the original 3s thing, but just to say, I think the Hemlock Wraithfighter at 155 points might not be as much of a joke as estimated. Maybe not. In this detachment specifically. I think it might have a chance of play. Then going on, Farseer Sky Runners, okay? They attach to Wind Riders. And they are Psychers. You understand where we're going here. A lot of it is Yappa Yappa, they're Psychers. With Misfortune, at the end of your movement phase, select one enemy unit within 18 inches of and visible to this model. Until the start of your next command phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, -1 from the wound from them. Alright, they moved it from the... Was that Warlocks? Or was it that original Farseers? Or whatever, where you could put it onto your uh, Avatar of Cain and go about it. Now it's the enemy has to do it, but if you have 3 Farseer Skyrunners, that's 3 units that, with 14-inch movement, are making it so that your opponent is hitting at -1 to wound. And to that point, it is mounted. They do have fly, though, And the way that we've been seeing mounted in the current gaming landscape might not be that much of an issue. So, if everybody else can make their bikes work, I have faith that Eldar can. Moving past that, the Wind Riders themselves reroll hit rolls of 1. I suggest the Shuriken Cannon purely for this, because that's lethal hits, and, well, okay, if the target is closest eligible target, reroll the entire hit roll. Cool. 80 points for 3 models, perfect. But, because they're attaching to the Farseer Skyrunners, you also have Warlock Skyrunners that can attach to the Wind Riders that can attach to the Farseer Skyrunner. Now, why would I do that? Because the Warlock Skyrunners are Psychers. That can give ignores cover to the unit. We don't really care about the Destructor thing, but it's cool. You have access to more powerful Flamer on top of that, too. But here's the thing. If you attach them, 2 models, 90 points, to maybe 80 points here, and another 80 points. You go, damn, that's expensive. That's 270 points, right? Did I just 250 points? Fucking I. 250 points. So that's a bit steep. And this army is looking quite elite. You're looking tight on points there. But why would I do that? Well, each model is a psyker, and going over here to Shepherds of the Dead, each time an Azriani Psyker model is destroyed. So, for one unit, that's 3 Psyker models. Yeah, Psyker models, because we're looking for the keyword. Not the. I believe we're looking for the keyword. That actually might be a hell of a loophole. If you're going for, yeah, it's not the unit. It's models. It's models. Either way, sorry. Uh, you're over here looking at 3 models per unit with Psyker. That means that you're proccing it a little bit more often instead of just waiting for 3 Spiritseers to die. Well, retaining benefits such as ignores cover, lethal hits, re-rolling, uh, blast, whatever, right? Just might be a little bit more of an option you want to put there. They're flying, they have the movement. I'm just saying, you can get the party started with some Warlock Skyrunners attached to Wind Riders, attached to the Farseer Skyrunner. Then we go over here to the maybe, and the last one is a hopeful. Eldrad, you probably want command points. He's a psyker. You probably want to make it so that your friendly Eldari model is going into something is +1 to wound before something dies. Try Eldrad. Uh, Warlock Conclave for him, -1 to wound. He's a Farseer going into them. Try Eldrad. And then the final one, I'm just saying, okay, hear me out. In some regards, it can legally fit in a 2,000 point list. Okay, it's a wraith construct, and it didn't get swooped out with the others. Revenant Titan. Okay, hold your tomatoes and your booze. I'm just fucking saying, it is 1,100 points, but it also is T13, 2 up save, 4 up invulnerable, at ranged, and 30 wounds. But now I'm not sure if it actually has the battle focus here. Like, I believe it does. But if it does, it has assault weapons. Revenant Jetpack gives it 8 on the advance. And with battle focus, you can add another 2 with Swift as the Wind. So now you have something that can go over terrain features 4 inches or less in height. Um, at 26 inches with assault weapons that are anti-monster 4 up, anti-vehicle 4 up, something like that. Maybe Revenant Pulsar, strength 14, AP 3 damage 4. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, if you own a Revenant Titan, this would be really fucking funny. So yeah, Um, Spirit Conclave. I think a lot of people wrote it off in favor of the other ones, and you can still bring some of the other units within this. If some parts look a little too steep for something that you feel you could do with somebody else. So yeah, I think we might see this a little bit later. Maybe not right now. Everybody's having fun with the new models over here at Aspect Host and the power of Unite. But yeah, that, I, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. So if you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me? Comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.